Today, let's take a look at the new GMAT Focus Edition. We're going to do a few questions, and I'm going to give you a brief rundown on what's inside the new test. Inside the Focus Edition, we have 3 sections: Data Insights, Quant or Math, and Verbal. The great thing about the test is you have section order flexibility. That means you can do these items in any order. You could start off with data, math, then verbal. Or if you want to do verbal first, then do math, then do data, that's fine too. Or you could jumble it up even more. Verbal, then data, then math. You also get an optional 10-minute break. You can take the break or you don't have to take the break. And then you can decide when you want to take the break, right? You could do this section first, take a break, then do this section, and then do the third section. Can you take a break again here? No, you only get one 10-minute break, and they let you choose when you want to take that single break. Inside each section, what do we have? Inside the Data Insight section, we have data sufficiency, that's a particular question to the GMAT, and integrated reasoning. This section gives you a calculator. It's a calculator that pops up on screen, so that's a nice thing about the section. Then you have math. We have a single question type, problem solving. Now, if you've done high school math before, this is roughly a word problem with 5 multiple choices for you. However, you don't get a calculator in this section. And then we have verbal, critical reasoning, which is roughly logic, but it's easier than it sounds if you're scared of the word logic, and then reading comprehension. If you notice, every section here is 45 minutes each, totaling to a test time of 2 hours and 15 minutes. So let's try some of these questions out. We won't be trying every single question type, but we'll be looking at problem solving and critical reasoning. This here is a critical reasoning question, which you will see in the verbal section. Now, different parts to the question. This is called the argument. It's the question, obviously, and then these are the choices. Inside an argument, we will usually have something called the evidence and conclusion. And that's one skill that you have to learn in order to be able to attack the critical reasoning question with confidence and with speed. So in the class, we'll teach you how to break down the argument, basically how to break down the first paragraph. Press pause, try to answer the question here, and then come back to look at our solution. In our verbal strategy class, we'll teach you how to approach a question, what to focus on, and how to manage the choices. Let's take a brief overview of what the question type is. It's an assumption question, and there are many question types within the critical reasoning range. The next thing we do is we read the top. You're going to notice that the argument's conclusion is right here, because the word clearly. And then everything else on top is what we call the evidence. So I've squished the question to the left. Here is our conclusion. Although you can't write on the screen on the test, you do have note paper that you get. As you're reading the argument, this here is what we call the argument, you want to start seeing logic patterns if there are logic patterns to be seen. Let's break this down together. One way to approach this problem is to notice that they're telling you 3% of Maryland drivers equip their vehicles with radar. 3% of Maryland drivers have radar. And then 33% of all vehicles ticketed for speeding, exceeding the speed limit, were equipped with radar. We were equipped with them. 33% of cars ticketed for speeding were equipped with radar, right? So they have radar. And then lastly, in the green section, clearly drivers who equip their vehicles with radar detectors, so if you have radar detectors are more likely to exceed the speed limit. They speed more. Okay? This is the evidence. We'll call that E1. This is another piece of evidence. We'll call that E2. And then we have the conclusion there. This is the first time we're seeing this question together, but once you start learning, you're going to know that in an assumption question, one thing that you could do is to link which answer choice links the evidence to the conclusion. And let's look at it this way in logic form. If this orange thing goes to have radar, and then have radar, which is the same thing as the one here, goes to speed more, we can think about this framework as if A goes to B, we'll call that B, and B goes to C, that means that A has to go to C. A goes to B, B goes to C, right? What follows? A goes to C. And the right answer is right here. Drivers who are ticketed for exceeding the speed limit, so cars ticketed for speeding, are more likely to speed, right? And this is why choice B is correct. Choice B is correct because it links the orange thing to the green thing. This is one way to approach this question to show you that, some of these answers aren't random. Some of these answers aren't just, how the GMAT feels the answer should be. There's actually rhyme and reason behind it. There are faster ways to do this question, and we can cover that in class. For critical reasoning, just now we did an assumption question type. These are all the other question types that we'll be learning about, which encompasses every critical reasoning question type on the GMAT. Strengthen, weaken, inference, evaluate, and bold. Each question type here has a different approach to them, as well as a slightly different thought process in coming up with the correct answer. And we'll learn everything that you need to use in order to confidently attack each of these question types. Another verbal question type is the reading comprehension question type. So I won't torture you here with a reading question, but I'm going to cover a little bit about how we teach the reading comprehension section. Most importantly, recognize the different question types. And one of the things to know is, as you're choosing your answer, do you want to make inferences? So to make inferences means to make conclusions based on what's written in the passage. Or do you not want to make inferences? Meaning, do you want to choose an answer choice that completely repeats or paraphrases the thing in the passage? So that's a skill you have to know when to use, right? When do we think further? When should we not? We're also going to teach you where the answer source is inside the passage. In a reading comprehension question, you'll get a passage that's roughly 300 words plus or minus, and then the passage will be accompanied with 3 to 4 questions. So learning where the answer source is will help you quickly target the answer and also help you avoid reading things unnecessarily. We're also going to learn what tricks and strategies you can use to manage your choices. What if you're down to 2 choices? What do you do? Or what if you don't know what to pick at all? What do you do? Right? So these are tricks and strategies that will help you in questions that you feel a little blank on. Let's take a look at some math. So here, this is a problem-solving question type. Take a pause. Let's see which answer choice you like, and then press play again to see our solution. The question asks you, eliminating which of the following numbers from each of the 2 rows on top will result in increasing the average numbers of one row versus decreasing the average of the other row. Now, when we do math, there's a couple ways to approach math. The textbook method, where if you were to do an average for each line here, you would add each number and divide it by, there's 7 items here, divided by 7, and you would get 6. Do the same thing with the second row, and then maybe try to pull number 5 out and recalculate. Pull number 5 out and recalculate the new average. But we don't have time for that. The other way to take a look at questions like this would be to use logical reasoning or speed. So the fast way to do it is this. Notice that each row has consecutive integers, meaning numbers that go in order. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. When you have a list of consecutive numbers, the middle guy is the average. And so you should be able to see immediately that 6 and 8 is the average for each row. Now, let me show you a wrong answer first, and then you'll understand why the right answer is right. Let's pull 5 out. If we pulled 5 out of each row, we want the average of one row to increase, and we want the average of the other row to decrease. Where is 5? 5 is here. 5 is on the lower end of the middle. And so if you pull 5 out of each row, the average will go in the same direction. So that's why the answer is not 5. The answer is 7. Because if we pull 7 over here and 7 over here out of each row, you can see that 7 is on the high end here, 7 is on the low end here, and therefore the average should go in different directions, right? The new average should go in different directions. And that is why our answer is C. Recognizing patterns is a really important skill to have, whether you're doing a math question or a verbal question. Let's take a look at one more math question. Take a look at this, press pause, think about how you want to approach this question, and then resume when you want to watch the solutions. The fastest way to attack this question is recognizing patterns. Patterns can come anywhere. It can come from the question itself on top, or it can even come from the choices that they give you. For this particular question, let's look at the answer choices. A, 10 to the negative 8. B, 3 times 10 to the negative 8. Now, in A, there's actually a little 1 here. 1 times 10 to the negative 8, but we don't usually write the 1. And you want to notice that that's a 1, that's a 3, that's a 3, and then let's skip to E. That's also another 1. We usually don't write the 1. And then there's a 2. What you want to notice is the pink ones are odd, the green one is even. If you see this, maybe behind the scenes, this question is an even-odd question. To do it with speed, we might have to take some liberties. This is roughly an odd number. Technically, it's not. An odd number has to be a whole number, but this looks like an odd number. So odd. What's the bottom, the denominator? That looks like an odd number. The one on the right, that's odd too. Well, looks like an odd number. And then the denominator, this one here, that's an odd number. What's odd divided by odd? Whenever you want to find out, the relationships between even and odd, you can substitute any even and odd number. What's 3 divided by 1? You get 3, right? And so if 3 divided by 1 is 3, and odd divided by odd, you will always get an odd number. Likewise, on the right side, odd divided by odd, you're going to get odd. What's odd minus odd? So you can substitute numbers. What's 3 minus 1? You get 2, and that's an even number, right? So if the example is 3 minus 1 equals an even number, then odd minus odd will always be an even number. And so you can see from here that chances are that's the answer. And D is the answer. If you were to do this question in full, this is a difference of squares question. In the math strategy class, we'll show you how to recognize that these numbers that are given on top represent difference of squares. So I've written down for you here what each of these numbers, the numerator, is. So these are skills that we'll learn in math class. And you're supposed to recognize that you can break up the numerator, you can break up the top by the difference of squares rule. So this becomes these two. Behind the scenes, the difference of square rule is x squared minus y squared equals x plus y times x minus y. And what you can see is that this and this will cancel out because they're the same. And then this and this will cancel out. And what you have left would be this chunk minus this chunk. Once you subtract the two, you're going to be left with D. So to sum up, whether you're doing math or verbal, speed and accuracy, finding the balance between speed and accuracy is a key to your success on the test. So at MBA Key, we teach you how to approach the question, what to look for, what to manage first. In doing so, you'll learn how to break down each question type. And as you go through your choices, you'll learn choice management skills. Which one do we get rid of quickly? Which one do we need to spend time on testing? In terms of speed, we're going to learn, you saw a little bit today actually, we're going to learn about logic and reasoning. What logic and reasoning skills you need. It actually isn't as complicated or scary as it sounds. We're going to learn about pattern recognition, when to recognize patterns and what kinds of patterns you need to recognize. And then lastly, we're also going to talk about some tricks to help you when you have no way out. To learn more about us, you can visit us on our Facebook /mbakey.mbakey, or you can go to our website, mbakey.com. We can also be found on GMAT's official website, mba.com. We are one of only a few test prep centers featured on the website. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions or need any advice on your MBA application journey.